So I've split this video up into two parts because this was going to be too long just as one. So just after the intro is going to be everyday trainers, then we're going to look at recovery shoes, and then we're going to look at racer trainers. And in part two, we're going to look at your racing shoes, your trail shoes, and your spikes. Alright, enjoy! Hi everyone, Matt Korean here at Made to Run, and today what I'm going to talk about is finding the right sort of shoe for what you want to do with it. So we're going to look at everyday trainers, we're going to look at recovery sort of day shoes, we're going to look at how to identify a racer trainer, and then we're going to take a look at racing shoes, trail shoes and spikes. Alright, let's have a look. Okay, so we're going to start off with your everyday trainer. Now this is going to make up the majority of what you see on the shelves in specialist running stores, probably what you see the majority online as well if you're shopping online, and we're just going to take a look and see how you identify those sort of shoes and what the purpose of them is. Purpose wise, it sort of says it in the name really, they're an everyday trainer. So it's going to do what you're going to do the majority of your training in. So, from straight off the sort of the lower end of the distances in those 5Ks and things like that, all the way up to your sort of 20 milers and things. This sort of shoe is going to be what you're using. It's going to be nice and cushioned in the heel. It's going to be slightly firmer through the forefoot, so that if you want to transition from a slower, easier pace to a faster pace, you've got a little bit of push off the toes. Generally they're relatively spacious in terms of width and things like that, though some are slightly narrow fitting, and usually as well with the brands, because this is the sort of tends to be the most popular sort of shoes, they tend to do them in different width fittings as well, so you can get them in a narrow width or in a wider fitting width also, depending if you need that. So looking at the brands, the price point of the everyday trainer sort of shoe tends to be around that 120 point. Now there are some variations where they try and do something a little bit different with that everyday trainer, so it adds a little bit to it, a little bit more functionality, a little bit more tech to it. And they then obviously go up a little bit in price, but normally you're sort of talking that 120 price point. So let's take a look at some of the everyday trainers we've got in store. I'm just going to look at the neutral shoes in this look at this sort of comparison, but for every one of these sort of shoes there is an equal support shoe from each brand that'll sort of be, again, that similar sort of 120 price point, similar sort of cushion in terms of softer in the heel, firmer in the forefoot, and sort of weight and all the things like that, but it'll have that support system in there depending on how the brand does that. So starting off with Hoka, we've got the Hoka Clifton. Really soft sort of shoe. Again, it's got that rocker that you get with Hoka. This one sort of obviously doesn't have that slightly firmer feeling, but there's a little less cushion under the forefoot than there is under the heel, and that'll be the same across all these everyday sort of trainers as well. You've got your Brooks Ghost. Again, nicely soft cushioned in the heel, slightly firmer through that forefoot for that toe off. Just a Coney Ride. Again, very similar. All these shoes are very similar, and they're going to look, if you just took them, forget the overall aesthetics of like colour and things like that, but the actual just sort of heel to toe sort of cushion look, they're going to look very similar. Your Mizuno Wave Rider, obviously slight difference in that you've got that wave plate technology there through the heel that adds that bit of spring and cushioning in the heel there, but overall, again, similar sort of profile to the other shoes. Your Adidas Solar Drive, again, similar profile in nice cushion in the heel, slightly shallower in the forefoot, and obviously slightly firmer feeling there for that toe off. And it's maybe a little bit different on there is the Cloud Flow. Again though, it is slightly higher stack height in the heel, slightly lower in the forefoot there, we give that sort of responsive feeling. Obviously all these shoes work in slightly different ways, and we'll do videos where I talk about the specific brands and the technologies within those brands, but that's generally your everyday trainer is going to sort of follow that sort of profile and that price point and things like that. And that, as I say, that's going to be what you do the majority of your runs in, and that's going to be the majority of what you're looking for when you're looking for a shoe. What I'll do now is talk about sort of the recovery shoes and how they're sort of slightly different, because you could get away with using them as an everyday trainer if you wanted to, if you really wanted that softer, more plush cushioning. Possibly you suffer from joint pains and things like that, and you really want to take the impact out when you're running on tarmac and on the pavement and things, and that's where that recovery day shoe might work as your everyday trainer as well. But we'll talk about that in a second. So, as I was saying, max cushion shoes could be used as an everyday trainer, or you could use them as a recovery day shoe, just to help take away the impact, to put less pressure on the joints as you're running, and just because they're really soft, really plush sort of shoes. So, in store, the ones we have in that max sort of cushion category, and we don't have them for every brand, but every brand does have them, and they will sit above, in terms of the cushioning, on those everyday trainer shoes. They'll be in the same sort of line. So, from Hoka, we've got the Hoka Bondi. Again, you can see there's considerably more stack height there than the Clifton. Let me just grab a Clifton for comparison, just to show you side by side. You can see the more stack height in the Bondi and more cushioning. In the Brooks, we've got the Brooks Transcend. This is a support shoe there with the guide rail system, but again, more cushioning, and that softer cushioning there goes all the way through the forefoot. You can see there's actually more forefoot cushioning as well in comparison to something like the Brooks Ghost, which would be the neutral version of the everyday trainer of this shoe. So you just see there's a little bit more cushioning there in the forefoot than there is there. We have our Wave Sky from Mizuno, neutral max cushion shoe. Again, you can see there's a bit more stack height across there. It's a bit more cushioned. It's really plush, sort of soft sort of cushioning. And that's your Mizuno shoe. And then in On, you've got your Cloud Stratus. Again, working slightly differently due to the technology in the On shoes, but it is that max cushion sort of shoe. This was designed for stuff like ultra running as well as marathon training. The actual promo for this shoe was a on-sponsored athlete running the Rio Marathon, which is a point-to-point marathon. He ran the marathon, refueled at the other end, turned around and came back the other way. It was double the run, double the cloud, as you can see, double cloud layer. That was all on sort of marketing. They're really good on that. So that's sort of your max cushion sort of shoes, those recovery day shoes, or those max cushion shoes for that everyday use if you want that more cushioning in the shoe. I always say sometimes that the one negative that you get on a everyday shoe, on a max cushion shoe, and the reason why you wouldn't use it for an everyday shoe is because they're so soft, because they're so cushioned, you don't necessarily get that sort of responsive drive back off the ground, that want to pick up of pace that you might want in an everyday trainer. Because of that, and which you get because of that slightly firmer forefoot feeling. You don't necessarily get that in all of those recovery day sort of shoes, or those max cushion shoes. Some of them you do, just because of the way the technology they're designed in the technology and things like that. So the rocker in the Hoka, the speedboard in the Cloud Stratus, things like that. But some of them just feel so soft, it's like running in a slipper, and imagine trying to sprint or pick up the pace in a slipper. It's not going to happen. So that's where they fit into that sort of max cushion recovery day, really soft sort of fitting shoes. Right, let's have a look at racer trainers. So racer trainers. Now, we don't stock a huge amount of racer trainer sort of shoes here at Made to Run, mostly because they're not seen as being as required as they once used to be. But they're still sort of a really viable shoe choice, especially if you're looking for something that's lighter on the foot. Potentially you're not as fussed on having something really cushioned. And obviously if you're doing sort of the shorter sort of distances, if you are going up to the marathon distances, you probably want something a little bit more cushioned at least for the training. You might choose to use a racer trainer for race day itself. But if you're doing stuff for speed work sessions and things like that, then a racer trainer is really great for that. It's a lighter shoe, it doesn't have as much cushioning, but it feels a lot faster underfoot than those everyday trainers. So in the shop, one of the ones we use does fit into that everyday trainer category, but because of the technology in it, which I'll go through in another video about On shoes, is the Cloud Flow. It is slightly firmer in that forefoot, does have a little bit more cushion and stability around that heel with that heel counter, but because of the speedboard and because of the way the cloud cushioning works, it does give that faster on the foot feeling. And I have seen guys, and the guys I train with actually, have used this shoe as a racing shoe. Me, I use it as my everyday trainer. I've gone up to 25 miles in this shoe. I don't like it on my foot for speed work, but for an everyday shoe it's perfect for me. But I know guys who, use this as a race day shoe and a racer trainer because it's so light as well. Now, something that really fits into that racer trainer category definitely is the Brooks Ravenna. Now, this is a really lightweight shoe. It's a lot firmer underfoot than stuff like the Ghost, and definitely than the stuff like the Transcend and the Glycerin that fit into that max cushioning shoe category. It is the same cushioning that you get in the Ghost in the forefoot, but this in the Ravenna, it goes all the way through the shoe. What it gives you is a really sort of faster feeling underfoot, responsive sort of feeling. You also get that sort of sleeked back, more aerodynamic design that you get in a racer trainer. So it gives you enough cushioning if you're going to use it. If you are going to use it as slightly as an everyday sort of shoe, but you could get something a little more cushioned for not much more, because this is a £110 shoe, so for £10 more you get a considerable amount more cushioning, which is why you'd sort of use this more for that race day trainer sort of shoe, racer trainer sort of shoe. And then what we've got then is on the other spectrum of it, so getting towards the lighter side, getting towards the more racer sort of shoe, is the Adidas Boston. Now, this was initially, when it first launched, a marathon racing flat. That's sort of got a little bit more cushion been added to it as the years have gone by and as the models have increased, and now it's more of a racer trainer. So you could still use that as a racing shoe if you wanted to, but a little bit more padding on there in the heel and things like that. It weighs a little bit more than it previously did, and therefore it sort of sits more in that racer trainer category, giving you some cushion but still feeling fast underfoot. So we're going to break now, go get a cup of tea or a coffee, and then come back for part 2.